those are the voters that we want the majority to simply give a chance to speak to them. And that's not asking a whole lot. So where do we go from here? Well, to talk more about that, I want to introduce Jackson Maynard with the Citizen Action Defense Fund.
Jackson!
Thank you, Brandy. I hope everyone's enjoying this fine Olympia weather today. I'm Jackson Maynard, Executive Director of the Citizen Action Defense Fund, public interest litigation organization. I have the great pleasure of introducing Amber and John Goldade, my clients. This couple faced an unimaginable tragedy that you'll hear more about when their daughter became the victim of a crime. They channeled their grief into action by signing the petitions, the 6 initiatives now pending before the legislature, and were joined by 800,000 Washingtonians who provided 2.7 million signatures. This morning, on their behalf, I sent a demand letter to the leadership of the legislature, pointing to the clear language in the state constitution that requires that initiatives to the legislature take precedence over all other measures except appropriation bills.
Hear, hear!
As we pointed out in our letter, the courts have defended the initiative process when the legislature ignored it in the past. And the phrase take precedence is common in Washington law and clearly understood, except apparently by some lawmakers. I'd now like you to hear from my client, Amber Goldade.
I'm Amber Goldade, and on January 15th of 2022, our 12-year-old daughter was struck and killed by a man driving a stolen truck while walking home with a friend after a sleepover. My daughter and her best friend are victims of the no pursuit law. The new revised law would not protect them. At least 4 children have died since these laws have been in effect. How many children and adults need to die before lawmakers are willing to change the law? 4 is way too many. In order to prevent more tragedies, my husband and I both signed petitions for the initiative measure I-2113, which repeals the law on public pursuits that we believe, police pursuits that we believe created the circumstances that led to our daughter's death. We both also signed the 5 other petitions. My husband, John, and I were hoping that once the legislature met in session, that they would hear and pass the initiatives we were supporting. We want to tell them our story, but more than that, if you don't stand by the Constitution, what do you stand by? We can't believe that there are lawmakers that are choosing to ignore the state constitution on having a floor vote or public hearings regarding the initiatives. Every time you lawmakers choose not to look at the hard evidence and follow the made-up statistics and not follow the state's constitution, you are re-victimizing the victims and their families. Please have a hearing on these initiatives.
Who thinks it's the very least they could do to let people like Amber and John come in and talk to them for 2 minutes? As Jackson and Amber both said, this is not just about the wants and desires of the 800,000 people who signed on to those initiatives. It is about the law. It is about the Constitution, and it is clear. It says that initiatives to the legislature, quote, shall take precedence over all other measures except appropriation bills. But what has the majority party chosen to prioritize instead of those things? They've been prioritizing a bill banning gas. They have been prioritizing a bill that would give murderers like Gary Ridgway the right to vote and serve on a jury. It's wild stuff. I also noted they've prioritized a bill that would create a Smokey Bear license plate. Is this the kind of stuff that should be taking precedence over 6 voter initiatives? So one of the lawmakers who's been trying to push these into hearings is House Minority Leader Drew Stokesbury, and I think Drew is here. He's got to get back to doing business inside.
Well, thank you, Brandy. Good to be here, and Brandy just stole about half of what I was about to say. But I'm Drew Stokesbury, House Republican leader, represent the 31st District in Southeast King County and East Pierce County. And while I'm only the House Republican leader, I'm very proud to say that all 40 members of the House Republican caucus stand with everyone standing here behind me today. We stand with the 800,000 Washingtonians who signed these 6 initiatives. And we want to fix what's broken in Washington, and these are a great way to do that.
Any walkers? You want to take it,
Every
Randy?
time an initiative to the legislature gets introduced, it gets referred to a committee. That's true of initiatives. It's true of every bill. We've had about 2,000 bills so far this session. Randy mentioned a few of the less important ones. And so every time one of these 6 initiatives has been introduced on the floor and referred to a committee, House Republicans have made a parliamentary motion to instruct that committee to hold a hearing. At every turn, that motion has been voted down, with every House Democrat opposing the motion to hold a hearing, every House Republican voting to hold a hearing. And it's just common sense. But not only is it common sense, we've got a moral obligation to give the voice to the 400,000 people that signed each and every one of them. Each and every initiative, give them a chance to come down to Olympia to testify, to talk about why they like the initiatives. And as Brandy and others have alluded to, we have a constitutional obligation because the state constitution is clear that these initiatives shall take precedence over all other measures. But unfortunately, despite House Republicans standing strongly in favor of these initiatives, House Democrats have continually opposed all attempts to hold hearings. But the fight's not over. There are still about 40-something days left in legislative session, and we'll continue to do what we can to try to bring these initiatives to the forefront. There are so many things. So many things that Washington can be great at, but there is a growing catalog of crises confronting Washington state. Gas is as unaffordable as any state in the country. Housing is as unaffordable as any state in the country. We have the fewest number of police officers per capita of any state in the country. 50% of our kids are failing math standards. 50% are failing reading standards. Childcare is among the most expensive in the entire country. The list goes on and on and on. There is a catalog of crises facing Washington state. We've got to fix what's broken. These 6 initiatives are a great way to begin fixing what's broken. And House Republicans and Senate Republicans are going to come down here to Olympia every day for the rest of the session to try to make sure these initiatives are heard and considered. And if they're not, then I guess we'll see everybody in November.
Oh, that's an epic thing.
If you're here, get up and stand by, okay? Well, here he is. I want to make a point because as much as I think a lot of the people here support these initiatives and what they would do, it is not about that. It's about respecting a process that gives the people of Washington and some of the protections that Democrats in the state value the most were born out of the initiative process. Or when abortion rights were codified in the state in the 70s, that was an initiative. In 2018, on gun control, that was an initiative. But you never saw the initiative process disrespected, dismissed, downplayed, interfered with, like you are right now. When we stand here and we say we want hearings for these bills, we want hearings where both sides can be heard. I fully anticipate, and I know everyone here would welcome people who are opposed to the initiatives signing up to testify at those hearings. This is not about having one side be given a voice. And we would hope that the lawmakers who are working in the building behind us, our building, that they understand that as well. When I mentioned the initiative process being under attack, we saw insane efforts from the state Democratic Party and from other progressive groups to create tip lines, to snitch on people who were out there legally collecting signatures. You know, none of us want our democracy to be under attack, whether it's at the nation's capital, whether it's here at home. And the idea that you would have a party that says it's protecting democracy, send out people to harass lawful signature gatherers is not in line with what they say they stand for. There have been two bills that Republicans have put forth this session, one in the Senate, one in the House, that would do something very simple. And it would do this for every initiative, whether it's one we agree with or one we don't. It would give people collecting signatures for initiatives the same protections that we give other aspects of the democratic process. You cannot harass someone when they're going to put a ballot in a drop box. And we wouldn't want that to happen. You should not be able to harass someone as they go to exercise their vote, pen to paper, in the state of Washington. So Senator Jeff Wilson is here. His name is on one of those bills, and he's going to give us an update on where it stands, which I think is going to be disappointing.
I'm not happy.
Well, thank you, Randy. Hello, everybody. I'll call you survivors. And I got to tell you right off the bat, real people provide real signatures. And this is initiative form. Let's be very clear. Initiatives are from the people for the people. And today I do have some sad news. Yesterday, my Senate bill was not allowed to be voted out of committee. And that was a very simplistic ask of just 25 feet to protect your democratic right and to be civil, something that's preached behind me as we speak daily, but yet not practiced. Unfortunately, the existing and the other bill in the House also reached its same fate as the signature gathering process. It seems to be noted that those that don't want to stand up for our rights couldn't have the courage to have this bill move forward, to have a discussion in front of you and everybody else to be included, something we like to practice, inclusive politics. One thing I'd like to mention, there's actually a lot of things I'd like to mention. I had a notes today, but let's not give up the faith. Even though I'm reporting on bad news, listen, we hear you. There are a lot of us that hear you, and we're not going to stop. There is no way to suppress this, despite the attacks, the viciousness, the willfulness of last year's attack to silence your right to a democratic process, a constitutionally protected process. That alone has incited us. And together, I think we're going to get through this. So never give up, because we will not.
Senator John Braun, are you here? Do I have a Senator Braun? All right, we might come back to you. I do want to end with something that kind of made me laugh yesterday. Like laugh so I don't cry, just to be clear. And then we'll have a call to action for everyone standing up here. This happened yesterday. Senator Manka Dhingra. All right, I haven't said what she did yet. Let's relax.
It's all right.
Senator Manka Dhingra said this week that passing these initiatives will take the state back decades. And it would hurt the progress that they've made. Now, I, for one, might be okay with the state going back like 10 years. I mean, if you're measuring progress by the amount of money that you've taken from citizens, then yes, you've made a lot of progress, and I congratulate you on that progress. But no independent-minded person believes that what we're seeing in this state right now is progress. We haven't seen progress on the homelessness crisis, quite the opposite. We have more people dying of drug overdoses than ever before. The crime crisis is utterly out of control. The government is taking more money from us than they even know what to do with. So what I want to ask of every single person who's here and who might hear this, whether you support these initiatives or not, if you support having the initiatives as a tool to push policies that you believe in, to repeal policies that you don't, it's really important that you contact your elected leaders, your state representatives, your state senators, call them, email them. And while you're at it, let them know why you do or do not support the initiatives. Make your voice heard. Because what we're starting to realize is if you do not take the initiative to make your voice heard, there are some people in that building behind us who will not listen. And so I want to just end by again reiterating that this is not about one man. You are going to hear that narrative over and over and over again for the next 8-9 months. that this is about Brian Haywood, who, yes, spent $6 million of his own money to make these initiatives possible. But he did not make these initiatives a success. The voters did that. And our only hope is a very simple ask. It is truly not asking very much. Our only hope is that they take the time to listen to the people who are being hurt by the policies that they pushed. That's all we want. And it's very simple. So thank you all so much for being here today. And continue to push, continue to fight back. And I said this. Oh, Jim Walsh. Oh my gosh. Holy moly. Could you believe if I forgot Jim Walsh? Who was like, Jim, get over here. My goodness. Jim, why don't you take us home?
Thanks, Brandy. Yeah.
Let me down.
We'll remember that for a little bit. God bless you all. The Washington State Constitution in Article 2, Section 1 talks about the tools that the people of the state of Washington have for fixing what's broken. The founders of this state, they anticipated times like these. They knew there would be times when our legislature went too far, when our executive overreached, when our courts failed to interpret the law. And they gave you the tool for fixing what's broken. That's what the initiatives are. Remember that our state constitution in Article 1 starts the whole thing off by saying that all political power is inherent in the people. You've heard the reasons why. Brandy said it, Drew said it. Crime is on the rise in a way that a reasonable person rejects. Yep. Families are being torn apart and undermined in a way that a reasonable person would object to. And the money, the budgets, the taxes, you know the story. The budgets have doubled in less than a decade. Has your income doubled in less than a decade? We need to get control of the process of the growth of government in this state. We will provide essential services. We will pave the roads better than we're doing now. We will make the ferries run on time again. And we'll do it all without bankrupting you to drive your car to work. It is the great tradition of Washington that while we are progressive in many ways, we are fiscally conservative. And we need to reclaim that great trait. You're the ones who've done this. Don't let the media say it's one person. Don't let the media disparage this about going back decades. I mean, shoot, back decades, like Brandy said, there were more salmon in the rivers decades ago. Yes. You know, we need to restore what's good. That's what this project is about. It's about fixing what's broken and reclaiming the good. And you reclaim the good. And you do that by calling, by emailing. Never give up. Never give up. Never give up. We won't. You don't. This is a beautiful state. We are blessed to live in a place that's at the crossroads of commerce and technology in the world. It's a place that's been innovative in business and in culture. Let's get back to that. And let's stop having these bills about letting prisoners in prison not just vote, but run for public office. Let's get away.
Hold it together.
It's hard to believe. It's serious. Let's get away from putting sex predators on the sex offender policy board. Let's get away from, campus radicalism and get back to common sense. We can do it, and we will do it. This is great. This is the start. Let's build from here, but stay engaged and push, push, push. Keep pushing for what's good.
I pretended to forget about Jim because he makes the best closing. That's really what it's about. One more, to piggyback off something he said, we joke that maybe it wouldn't be bad to go back a decade. Like, things were kind of all right. You know what else was happening a decade ago that made things better? There wasn't one party rule. There wasn't one party rule. I don't care what party it is. I don't care if it's the Republicans that control everything or the Democrats that control everything. That is not healthy in a democracy. That is not what we want. And I'm sorry, Jim, if you guys do get control of everything, I might have to hold some rallies against things that you are doing too.
I'll come out and speak at it, Brandon.
That sign says people above party, and we need to be the group that puts people above party before anything else. And never forget that you are not here fighting for your rights. You are here fighting for everyone's rights, even if they disagree with you. Thank you for being here. Drive safe.